Hey everybody, I'm back, and I got a haircut, sort of. Thank you, K-Mac, my girlfriend, for helping me cut my hair so I look more presentable and not like some hobo that's ranting at you randomly. I would have shaved too, at least shaved, like make my beard a little neater. But I'm out of razors, and I forgot to unsuspend my Dollar Shave Club account. I ordered more, so the next time you see me, hopefully in the next couple days or so, unless something else happens, which is highly likely in the next couple days, I will have cleaned up my beard so I look less hobo-ish. Uh, yeah, I wanted to get in here because these are like some really crazy times, and since the last podcast, or not even the last podcast, the last time I ranted at all of you, I came to realize some things. So thank you for everybody that watched my last rant, and I really appreciate it. And I said, if this doesn't, if people don't appreciate it, I'm not going to do it. And people reached out to me publicly and privately, and they said that they liked what I had to say and they wanted to hear more. So here you go. You get some more of me speaking to you. This podcast is going to be likely difficult for me to talk about, because it has to do with the civil rights movement and my parents and their involvement in the civil rights movement and what I think about what's going on in America right now, and some stuff in the last podcast our last rant that I did. It wasn't really a podcast; it was just a rant, that I had time to sit down and think about myself. And I hate saying this because I hate the way it sounds, because I hate when other people say it. Well, I don't hate it. I just like when other people say it, because usually when they say this sort of statement, as a black man or as an African American man, and then it gives you some sort of like higher platform to talk on. I don't want to talk down to people from some imaginary high up platform that me as a black man, you need to listen to me more, something like that. But in these times, I'm going to throw that kind of nonsense out the window. I'm just going to tell you about, my experience as an African American. And like the last time I did a rant, I talked about my experiences with racism, but I gave it to you as the listeners and viewers from the perspective of my view on racism coming from authority. And those are the main things that I talked about in the last one, which, coming from figures of authority, what I said was still correct. For the most part, in my life, I have not experienced that much racism from authority. However, I have experienced racism from just normal, everyday Americans. And I had some, I guess, cognitive dissonance about it that I'm realizing now, that I just kind of ignored and just like, well, fuck them. And yeah, I mean, fuck them. However, it should be called out, and I think that people need to understand what we are going through. I had some really difficult conversations over the past couple of days, especially with my girlfriend who's Caucasian, and she didn't realize that there's like this whole other America. And she like, yesterday I was getting off of work or something, and she was she started to cry, and she was asking me about when did I have the talk with my parents about what my life is going to be like as an African American male. And I was like, fuck, I did not I didn't expect her to ask me that question, because usually people don't, and usually it's something that African Americans in general, they don't talk about. It's coming up now, obviously, but I was like, damn, like that. I wasn't prepared for her to ask me that, and it was difficult to really talk about. But I mean, for me, it was at a young age, and for most, African Americans, like our parents talked to us about it, about how we're going to be disadvantaged for likely all of our lives, and I think that most Americans don't know that. So this is one of the reasons why I'm doing these sorts of podcasts, or these. I keep saying it is going to be a podcast, I guess. Whatever, podcast, rant, however I say in the future. I'm not going to correct myself anymore. Why I'm doing these talks is I want to give you the perspective from somebody that has gone through these issues, and that's going to try to give you kind of a a balanced perspective. I'm not saying that anybody out there that has not my opinion or my lifestyle or how I grew up is unbalanced, but I'm just going to give you my genuine experience. I'm not going to attempt to over embellish what I went through, even though in future podcasts you're going to hear some horrific things that happened to me as a child. But I'm not going to do that on this, you know, this talk because I'm not mentally prepared to talk about it. All right. And it doesn't have to do with racism from other ethnicities. But I'll get into that in a whole different talk. But I need to get in the right headspace for that. And basically, I don't want to sit here and be unintelligibly crying on a camera about what I went through. So just bear with me. We'll get there together. I'll prepare myself and I'll try to lay it down as logically as possible what happened to me, you know, as a child. But getting back to today, having to talk about, you know, the talk with somebody that is not African American is very strange because, you know, most of us, if not all of us, that are African American, you have to have that talk with your kids. You know, I didn't have the talk with my oldest daughter because, at least I don't think I did, from what I can remember. Because for the most part, I mean, she's a mixed kid, and she's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I talked to her about racism and stuff like that, but it would not. I would definitely talk to her. I would have talked to her more about racism and how she's likely to get treated. Actually, no. You know what? I did. I'm totally remember this now, because because she lives in Michigan, and I was telling her how about things could be different, living in Michigan, because she's not going to look like everybody there, even though her skin is very light and her hair is relatively straight. Um, that her experience in Michigan is going to be different from what she had in California, because we were living in Escondido, California, where we lived in a mix of people, where, you know, a mixed kid is relatively normal. You know, you see mixed kids all the time and people of color all the time in Southern California. But when you go to certain parts of Michigan, and she was in rural Michigan, to be clear, all right, she wasn't in Detroit. She was, or other areas. She was in rural Michigan, where the vast majority of people around her were Caucasian. So I did talk to her about that. So see, this is other things that, you know, as I remember things, they are they they are putting things in perspective for me, you know, and I'm trying to be super open minded about it, about being not ignorant on things, but just letting things just fall to the wayside and just kind of ignoring them and just taking it. And we should not be taking these sorts of things as African Americans or people of color in general. We have taken things for a long time, and it's time for it to stop. And what's gonna help stop it is conversations like these. So, if you have if you're a person of color and you're dating or married to a Caucasian, talk to them about what you went through when you grew up. Talk to them about if you had a talk to them about the talk. You know, have them understand, because it's a step in the right direction in more ways than you probably realize. They, you know, hold on a second. I was checking on something, making sure it's actually recording. But yeah, just make sure that they just lay it down for them, and if they understand, great. They'll probably ask more questions, which is great. It's a conversation starter. You know, it's to make them understand you more intimately than probably what you're used to. And it's going to be uncomfortable, because it wasn't comfortable for me, even though I kept my cool. But it's just like, I know that she didn't grow up like that, but to me it's just like our experience from growing up. You know, it's just the way things are. But that's not the way things should be here in America in 2020. You know, even when I was growing up, I was born in 1979, and things should have already been changing for the better, but it obviously didn't. And this gets on to my point to what I'm probably going to call this rant or this talk. Pardon me, I need a drink. Is it's the dream lost. The dream has been lost, and what I'm speaking of in particular is Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream has been lost, and we had the wool pulled over our eyes, and we thought that as African Americans and people of color, that we were equal with everybody else, and it has not been the case since he died. And I think that people need to recognize that when they're looking at these events today. And a lot of people are not recognizing that at all. And it's bothering me. They're using his name to give me one moment here. Sorry, I didn't close down all my windows, and people have been pinging me constantly today about things, and I can't respond to everyone at this point in time. So yeah, sorry about the dings. Super unprofessional. If it was normally like in the podcast setting, I usually shut down all my windows besides the one that I'm currently talking on, or that I need, the windows that I need to have so my apologies for that unprofessional dinging. That was Facebook. But anyway, yeah, the dream being lost is that us as Americans as a whole, the wool was pulled over our eyes. And it's not even just African Americans. It was Caucasian Americans as well, and other people of color, that we were told that, we were equal since the civil rights movement, and that we had all these things. Look, we're going in the right direction with all these, social programs and all this shit. But it's not true. It hasn't been true. We were lied. We were all lied to, including me, and I feel sort of foolish right now about it. And I think that certain people that are in my position likely feel foolish about it as well. But I'm going to do something about it, starting with these talks. So hopefully this will definitely help me, and I hope it helps anybody that listens to this, is that we were lied to about how equal we were. We've had a history of violence against minorities here in America, and we're always being told that, oh, it's just one bad apple. Oh, it's just one bad apple, in the police force or whatever. But what I saw when, after George Floyd died and the officer was not arrested for days, and that they had over 70 officers protecting him, and as I'm not even going to say the guy's name, but the officer that killed George Floyd, he was protected by 3 other officers. Those 3 officers are still free to this day. They need to go to jail. They need to sit next to him when he's on trial and go to trial for the exact same crime. All right? The 75 officers that protected his house, that is unacceptable. You are protecting a murderer, and he murdered a man on video, and you saw it, and you decided to protect this man against people. Well, he should have been in jail. They shouldn't have first of all, you should not have felt the need to protect him at all. He was fired from the police force. If you think that what he did was acceptable, every single last one of you needs to be fired, and you should never hold any form of power in your goddamn life. Your moral compass is non-existent. People like you are how Nazis came into power. And I hate using the Nazi reference because I hate people that use that reference usually use it in the most extreme manner. But in this manner, I believe it's appropriate because you believe that that guy did something because, and you're just going along with the status quo of what he did. You think that it's acceptable. You're going to protect him from any kind of blowback, and you think that what he did was right. Killing a man for 9 minutes. If that was right to you, are you even a human being? I mean, seriously. Did George Floyd kill somebody? No. It was, from what I understand, the crime that he was... sorry, my thoughts are a little bit jumbled right now, but the crime that supposedly he did was that he had a fraudulent $20 bill. Is a $20 bill worth a man's life? He wasn't... resisting arrest. We all saw the videos now. They're all out there. He wasn't resisting arrest. So anybody that has that narrative, you're totally wrong. You're living in some fantasy world. A fantasy world where it's totally okay to kill a human being for 9 minutes and have 3 people protect you. That's the world you're living in. That world is not acceptable to me. And it's not acceptable to the vast majority of the world. We look like a joke. Not even a joke. We're the bad guys right now in the world. America and people that continue to accept the form of oppression that is happening right now in America is unacceptable to the world. What is happening in America right now, which I'll get into in another video, but what is happening here in America right now are steps that are in the same direction of when we send our troops to depose a dictator. These are the same exact steps that those dictators take to suppress, oppress their own citizens. All right? We're going through an incredible time where we have extremely high unemployment, all right? And the vast majority of those unemployed are people of color, all right? We're calling them essential workers and demanding that they work to provide us services, yet we're not, the vast majority of these companies are not paying them anything extra to put their lives on the line during a pandemic. They're putting their lives on the line to make sure that this country works. And you're just throwing them to the wayside. You know, at the same time, you ignore the plight of those same people. You know, you can't have it both ways. You can't. It's incredibly just ignorant on the side of these leaders. They're not even leaders. They're just these weak people that happen to have a position of power, but they should not be there. They are not helping Americans, and they have destroyed the dreams that Martin Luther King Jr. had and my parents had. So I'm gonna share with you a picture that has been driving me nuts over the past few days, and the only people that I see sharing this picture are Caucasians. And I'm only saying that because that's what I see. All right, if people of color are sharing this picture, anybody that's sharing this picture, please stop it. Okay, just stop it. You don't know what you're talking about. So here's the picture that I'm talking about. This is a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. and the caption is, "Looted nothing, burned nothing, attacked no one, changed the world." We were lied to. The world has not changed. Not that much. The dream that he had at this point in time, I'm not sure exists. I'm almost certain that it doesn't exist. Given what happened, what's been happening for hundreds of years here in America, it doesn't exist. If he was alive today, he would be in tears. All right? Stop sharing this nonsense. You don't know what you're talking about. All right? If he changed the world, George Floyd would be alive. If he changed the world, Trayvon Martin would be alive. If he changed the world, countless other people of color would still be alive. Or if they died, their killers, their murderers would be in jail. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? I don't think people that share this picture, even that's not even in their mind. They're just like, oh, this looks cool. Let's just share it. Looks great. You know? You don't know what you're talking about. So just take several steps back and several seats and shut up. You're not helping anything. Okay? There were people on Twitter. So let me just pull up the next bunch of nonsense that I've been reading over the past couple days. This is from like 2 days ago. It was May 28th. This is from Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, Martin Luther King III. All right. So somebody that maybe knew something about Martin Luther King Jr. Maybe. All right. So let's bring up what he said on Twitter today, or a couple days ago. As my father explained during his lifetime, a riot is the language of the unheard. There were so many Caucasians that came out, and I hate it. I am not racist, all right? Or at least I try to be as minimally racist as possible. It probably exists somewhere, but I treat everybody as fair as humanly possible, or at least as fair as I can. But I keep seeing Caucasians do this. I'm not seeing people of color do this. What he said, the amount of people that were Caucasian that tried to SJW that bullshit and tried to be like, oh, but he was a person of peace. Oh, he was blah, blah, blah. Like, he didn't fucking know his own dad? Are you serious? Do you understand how stupid you sound? Like, he didn't know his own father. Like, he doesn't know about the civil rights movement. He is a human rights leader in America still. The fact that you happen to see his tweet and all of a sudden you're like, I don't agree because I think I know your dad better than you do. Meanwhile, he's doing more for human rights than any of those people ever will do in their entire goddamn life, is so offensive to me. And that they're just on this high horse of where they think they know better. You don't know better than we do, okay? You do not. You don't get to qualify our existence or our pain. You know, what you need to do is actually try to understand it and stop seeking these platitudes and stop saying catchphrases and stop saying poorly thought, not even thought out. You just click on something. Oh, it sounds cool. No thought into it. And you just throw it out there. Stop doing it. Do your research. If you actually do have people, African American friends, and not just, oh, I have a black friend, or whatever. Talk to them. Talk to them first. Be like, hey man, what do you think about Martin Luther King Jr.? What do you think he would think about in these days? What do you think about what's going on in these days? Ask about their actual genuine experience here in America and listen to what they say. All right? And everybody out there that was like me in the past, where like normally I'd be like, oh, everything's cool. Tell them your honest answer. Tell them your honest answer about what has been going on in your lifetime in America. And just help them realize that there are different experiences here in America, and it is likely not what they think it is. Because I think that while there is obviously huge amounts of blame to go all around for like a lot of these issues, but if we don't come out and talk about our genuine experiences here in America, then people will not get it at all. So let's just come out and do it. And so when I was previously talking about like the racism that I've experienced here in America, I'm going to expand that to what it was like outside of authority figures. So I've had women clutch their purses around me as I pass them by. I've had people cross the street as I walk towards them. I've had people skip the elevator when I'm in it. I've had I was in a restaurant one day hanging out with some friends, and my friends that are listening to this, they'll remember this to this day because it was in Tracy. This is in Tracy, California. I was sitting there having dinner, having drinks. I didn't get up the whole time, and I'm having drinks, eating with friends, and all of a sudden the security comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, some waitress said that you were, he's like hitting on her or doing something, or it was something like that," and they had to pull me aside, and I was like, "Dude, I've been sitting here the whole time. I don't know what you're talking about." And at the time, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. It's just like, pull me aside, whatever. I'm not afraid of you people. Like, you're not scaring me, Let him pull me aside and talk to me. I'm just like, yeah, just have her, see me. And like, I'm not the person she's talking about. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. If that happened now, you can call the police right away. And if you don't, there's going to be a reason for you to call the police. All right? I'm not dealing with that sort of bullshit anymore. If I fit the description, you call the authorities. All right? And you let them handle it. Hopefully, the authorities aren't the wrong kind of police officer, but I'll take my chances rather than a security guard that has no authority over me whatsoever. And some random ass waitress that can't look at me and see if I'm the guy that, did something wrong to her. Like, is fucking nonsense. I'm not putting up with any of that anymore in my lifetime. That's stopping. All right. So those are like a lot of the major things that I've had to deal with. There's people that look at me funny and stuff like that. Because I live a certain lifestyle I end up in places that usually people of color aren't at because I have a higher income bracket and people do look at me funny sometimes when I go places. But generally speaking, I just ignore them. I do my own thing. But this is what this is everyday racism that people are talking about. People are looking at me like, should you be here? You know, those are the kind of looks that I get every now and again, depending on where I'm at. So those are things to think about when you think about racism here in America. It's not just the overt, you know, violent acts against people of color. It's should this person be here? You know, looking at people like that and, you know, looking at me and then looking at my girlfriend and looking back at me and being like, what the fuck? Like, those are things that are unacceptable to me and that should be unacceptable to every American today. You know, we're supposed to be a melting pot. We shouldn't all be dating people that look like us. Like, you can date whoever you want. This is America. Again, this is America. This is not some white supremacist country that that ended or supposedly ended, but apparently not. We still have, you know, dog whistling bullshit from even our president talking about you loot, we shoot, you know, and just other kinds of like stupid nonsense. Talking about people's Second Amendment rights when he's speaking about calling the military on his own citizens. That's all dog whistle shit. That there were tactics that were used in the past against African Americans and people of color to suppress them. And he even talked about sicking dogs on people. That was tactics used in the past to suppress us. You know, spraying us down with water hoses, sicking dogs on us, shooting us, killing us. How was that acceptable for the highest person in office to say today? It's 2020. It needs to stop. All right. What's difficult for me to accept in this day and age is the fact that, you know, I talked about it on the last rant, is that my parents were both civil rights activists. They were both in the Black Panthers. They fought for this. My dad is gone now. My mom is not mentally well, so she doesn't, so to her, like, this pretty much doesn't really exist, but there are people that are alive today that fought for these rights, died for these rights, got injured by these rights, they bled for these rights, and the fact that they have to go through this twice is so incredibly insulting to every goddamn American. This should be insulting to all of us. Everybody that's listening to this, it should be insulting to you that people should have to go through the same sort of nonsense twice in their lifetime. I have to have conversations with my kids now that should not happen in 2020. You know, another thing that's really bothering me, my youngest daughter is adopted. You know, talked about it before. Somebody entrusted this beautiful child to me and my girlfriend to give her a better life. That was the reason why this person entrusted this baby to us, a newborn. All right, and I don't know if I can give her the best life here anymore. What am I supposed to do? My oldest daughter, she just graduated high school. What's her life gonna be like now? You know, we have people that are out there racist as fuck, doing absolute nonsense, and now the economy has crashed. How is she supposed to live? Ask yourself that. If you have kids and you're a person of color, how are your kids supposed to live going forward from right now? How are they supposed to live? Are they going to live a life better than you? That's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to make a better life for your children. That's how you advance societies. If you don't do it, your society will no longer exist in a very short amount of time. Very short amount of time. And it's happening right now. We need to improve the lives of every single American on this planet. Every human, as far as I'm concerned, every human on this planet. But for right now, in America, which is where I live, it has to start here. We have to start making all of our lives better here so we can make the world better. We used to be the world leaders, but our leader has abdicated his seat on being a world leader. He is not being a world leader. He is doing the least amount as possible. He's doing the most finger pointing that he can. to try to cover up the fact that he's totally inept at his job. All right. The new thing now is sicking the military on his own citizens because a few people are looting. And yeah, looting's bad. Totally get that. Looting bad. Gotcha. All right. But at the same time, when he was giving that speech, guess what was happening outside of the White House? Peaceful citizens were shot at and gassed. Why were they shot at and gassed? So President Trump can get a photo op in front of a church holding a Bible. (2020) You're shooting at your own citizens with rubber bullets and non-lethal means, but still, you're dispersing your own citizens so you can get a photo op. Are you fucking serious? How is this America? This is not the America that I fought for as a Marine. And the fact that he's threatening the states, he's trying to threaten with the Insurrection Act to get the military forcefully involved in. It's going to be for the next rant, but he's trying to get the military forcefully involved in all the states. And newsflash for anybody that's thinking about that's a good idea, only 57% of your military is Caucasian, and you're going to assume that all of them think that this shit is okay. All right, I can guarantee you not all of them think that this shit is okay. So I wouldn't put too much stock in the military wanting to do this, which is going to make things even worse. But yeah, the fact that he can even consider that an option, and saying that his governors are weak, and that the local governments are weak. Your local governments don't want to cause a full blown, upheaval. They don't want to lose. They don't want entire cities to burn. Like right now, yeah, it's bad, but it can get a whole lot worse. In the next couple of days, I expect it to get worse. I'm not going to make it worse. I hope that people peacefully protest, but it's going to get worse. You can't threaten the United States citizens with the military. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. When people are trying to peacefully protest, there have been so many already in 6 days. In the span of 6 days, when we had these peaceful protests and obviously looting and rioting as well, I have seen so many videos of people peacefully protesting, getting shot at, I saw an old Caucasian guy getting shoved to the ground by a police officer. What the fuck? I've seen the press being targeted, shot at by the police. I've seen people lose eyes because they got shot in the eye by a rubber bullet, or they got shot in the eye by a gas canister. How is this in America that we are all just willing to accept? This is nonsense, and it needs to stop. All right? And I try to keep these short. This one's going a little long, so I'm going to stop it now. Just try to leave with some sort of words of wisdom, even though I'm not that fucking wise. But I want things to get better. So just treat each other the way you would treat your family. Treat each other with respect if it's somebody that you respect. Because, all right, listen, to be perfectly honest with you, respect is something that you earn. But at least treat people with just basic human decency. All right? Just treat them with decency. If they fuck you over or do something that's wrong, yeah, I mean, you can flip the script or whatever, but just from the get-go, just treat them with human decency. And I think it would be a whole lot better for it. But when you have people that are in positions of power that immediately go to the violent route and they have the authority to do so, something is very wrong with that society. And the fact that more people that are with them on their same team are not calling them out and making sure that they're fired shows to me that there is a systemic issue in America to this day. And I hope that more people in law enforcement start weeding out these. I'm trying to put it in better words because I don't want to just trash on people, but people that basically just fell through the cracks in your society. They fell through the cracks. You need to fix it. All right? Fix it. If you don't, this is going to get worse. And all my friends in law enforcement, there's like 4 or 5 of them that come into my mind immediately. All of you are great people. I don't want you at risk, and these fucking assholes that are falling through the cracks are making your lives more risky. And I want it to stop for you. Okay? I want it to stop so you can be as safe as possible doing your job. It's already a dangerous enough job, and it needs to stop. So I'll leave it at that. This rant is now done. Peace.